Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of AWS SheBuilds Tech Skills here in North America. I'm Jigna Gandhi, one of the co-hosts and co-team member in the SheBuilds team. And for those who are new to our channel, AWS SheBuilds is a program that champions women in the technology, and every week we showcase few inspiring stories from amazing women leaders. And also today I am joined by one of our newest SheBuilds member, Jiwon. Can you give us a quick introduction?
Yeah, of course. Hey everybody, it's Jiwon. I'm Solutions Architect here at AWS, and it is amazing honor to be here with you all today. I work with a lot of fintech and capital market customers in financial industries, and I am happy to be here and talk about amazing women leaders we have.
Awesome. So I'm gonna start with a very trick question to you. Can you tell us a little bit about, what excited you to join Shebels?
Yeah, 100%. So I didn't pursue STEM when I was studying at college, not because I didn't have interest in it, but I had the feeling that it is not a space designed for me. And even now, after I started my career about like 10 years ago, I still see how few women are visible in senior technical roles, and the absence of relatable role models kind of make it harder to envision what you can be and who you can become down the road. So I think She Builds really matters to me in that sense. It's a space where women like ourselves can see each other, support each other, and rise together. And the biggest reason I joined She Builds team was I want to learn, connect, and really help the space to be more inclusive for a variety of people. And here I am. I'll love to contribute and more can be more excited than I am now to have other leaders like Jigna and another great panel that we have today. So I'm super excited.
Awesome. That's really interesting. Thank you so much for joining the force. So going a little bit towards today's topic, and obviously it is going to be a little bit related to AI since that's the most popular thing right now. Currently, what do you see people seeing maximum impact with it?
Yeah, we get to support a lot of great like multiple customers. And through that experience, what I've noticed was customer experience is often the most approachable and high impact area of adopting AI. It's where teams feel confident to start small and experiment very quickly and move into production faster in many other domains and actually get a business outcome from it. So innovations in this space are not only transforming how business interact with users in that small portion, but it is also paving the way for other organization, like other functions in that organization to adopt the AIs further down the road. So it really is essential first door for any type of enterprise level adoption of AI.
I guess I can say plus one to everything. So I totally agree with that. And today, actually, we are going to be sharing one of our recent interactions we had with Jess Jackson. She's a VP of Customer Operations at MoneyLion, a leading fintech company that's making finance more manageable and help us make smarter financial decisions. So everyone wants it. We will be sharing few amazing things about how she and her team went through a transformative journey reshaping their customer experience. So let me go ahead and present that interview with everyone. Everyone, welcome to another episode of AWS Shebas Tech Skills North America. I'm your host Jigna Gandhi, and I also have my teammate Jiwon with me co-hosting this episode. And we have one very special guest, Jess Jackson. Jess, why don't you introduce yourself and just talk us through like what you do at Moneyline?
Sure. So, hello, thank you for having me. I'm Jess Jackson, and I lead customer operations at MoneyLion, which essentially means that my team and I are responsible for just about everything that touches the customer, from our agent support and complaints to customer advocacy across fraud, trust and safety, and escalated issues to the AI that powers our voice, chat, and email channels. We operate in a number of geographies. My team is spread across North America, Latin America, and Southeast Asia. And I get to work with some of the sharpest and most creative people in the business. So I'm very privileged there.
So that is amazing that you get to work with amazing people. And I'm curious to know how you ended up in customer operations as VP at MoneyLion.
Yeah, it's a good question. My career path to get here wasn't totally linear, I'll say. It was more like, where is the biggest mess? And then, cool, okay, I'll fix that. In my past lives, I've taken on departments in crisis. I've built systems from scratch. I've carried the weight of functions that no one else was stepping up to lead. And I didn't always have, the flashy title or all of the resources, but I did have clarity, and that helped me move things forward. As a woman in tech and operations, actually, that clarity really mattered. It's what helped me lead even when the room didn't necessarily look like me. And it also is what helped me earn trust really quickly in high pressure environments. So the challenges are real, but so are the opportunities to reshape how things are done. And I've always been just drawn to very complex, very high impact spaces where, frankly, listening to your customers and solving operational problems actually changes the trajectory of the business. So at MoneyLion, I've actually had the opportunity to really reimagine CX, not so much as a cost center, but as a strategic growth engine, and to help build all of the systems, teams, and technology that make that real.
So yeah, that sounds amazing. And sounds like your willingness to take up the new challenges, hard challenges, really major there. And I also want to ask, like, how your experience and with the willingness to change and challenges, how did you transform your customer experience at MoneyLion? How does that look like?
Yeah, that's a very good question. I could talk all day about this, but I'll keep it succinct for you. The way I like to think about it is we approached it in 3 phases: efficiency, intelligence, and trust. That said, like most real world transformations, it's also not perfectly linear. We're always building, learning, and adjusting. So phase 1 was all about really getting our house in order. We rolled out a more scalable operating model, we standardized workflows, and we expanded support coverage to deliver consistency across different regions. We also launched very foundational systems like our CRM, which helped us go from a more reactive firefighting mode to a more proactive service design. Phase 2 was where we got a bit smarter. We built comprehensive dashboards that gave us real-time insights on both our human-led and our AI-led interactions. And that context has honestly been a game changer. So we also started automating our more repetitive tasks, improved routing with things like intent recognition, and we also introduced better QA to close the loop between feedback and performance. And then phase 3 really focused on building trust, but at scale. So I rebuilt our customer complaint system from scratch, which helped us spot and fix, more systemic issues much faster. And we also launched our trust and safety function, which monitors very high-risk content and activities and helps us keep the platform, safe for our customers and community. And the best part, at least in my opinion, is that we're still building, because customer experience isn't really a destination. It's more of an ongoing commitment to get better every day.
That's amazing. Thank you so much for sharing that. I know, like, since AI is such an integral part of improving the customer experience, can you share one specific example? How you have used AI and data optimization specifically to enhance the customer experience, but also like maintaining the personal touch, I would say.
Yeah, definitely. So one of the most impactful ways that we've used AI in the human-centered way that you mentioned has actually been through AWS Connect. So we use it to verify customer identity directly in the IVR. So by the time a customer speaks with an agent, that step is already complete. I know that like, to some people listening, it might sound very small, but that actually removes a major friction point. No more having to repeat your name and your birth date before actually getting to the issue that you've called for. And it lets our agents also focus on resolving and not confirming menial information. So we're also leveraging AWS's real-time summarization features, which generates conversation summaries during or after a call. And that's actually incredibly useful when customers reconnect with us about a previously discussed issue, instead of having to like rehash and retell their entire story, the agent already has that context. And it helps us maintain empathy while reducing effort on the customer's side. So from my perspective, as someone who leads in both tech and operations, it's been really important for me to design these solutions with balance. Leveraging AI, but without losing humanity. I think that's really important. And AWS has helped us with that helped us with that balance, by being a true partner, not just in the technology itself, but also in shaping the way that we think about service design.
That's cool, and that sounds like a music to my ear. So for the audience, the group, so I think it'd be helpful if you could kind of walk us through how that architecture kind of looks like and what is in your wheelhouse, and to make this amazing customer experience possible.
Yeah, absolutely. So at the center of our architecture is our CRM, which handles our omnichannel case management, essentially. So for voice, we run on Amazon Connect. And for our conversational automation, we're actively in the process of migrating to AWS Lex as we speak. These are the systems that help us deliver, fast and very consistent service across any channel, whether that be chat, email, phone, or otherwise. One of the most impactful examples is actually our use of AWS Connect for IVR, identity verification, as I mentioned earlier. Instead of having to verify your name, email, or phone number over and over again, we actually handle it securely entirely within the IVR. So when a customer reaches an agent, that friction is gone. It's faster, and it also allows the agent to focus on solving, not data entry. And there's a lot that goes on behind the scenes to make that happen. We're also leveraging AWS Lambda to integrate contextual data from internal systems so that agents can see key information like fraud flags or transaction history without toggling between platforms. And that part's still evolving and will always be evolving. But even, if I was to give advice to anyone listening to this, even partial visibility will really make a big difference. And then finally, we've also built dashboards that act as sort of a mission control for CX performance. So we track volume trends, CSAT, agent performance, and issue types in real time. And it's not just about observing the data, it's about using it to lift and shift resources, refine workflows, and drive product feedback loops. Every layer of the tech stack is built to make the experience smarter, both for our customers and for our teams.
Okay, so this looks amazing. Can you share us a little bit about, how you were able to launch this as more of like revenue-focused customer operations team? And also, like when we talk about support models, they are like typically 9 to 5, but this looks like 24/7. So can you make sure, like, how did you also reduce the cost? What was your strategy here?
Yeah, for sure. And that's a great question. So ultimately, it really came down to rethinking the entire operating model. We weren't going to create better outcomes by just stretching old systems. We really did have to design something new. So we built a global 24/7 operation that is powered by both human and digital agents. I know that a lot of people talk about 24/7 because you slap a chatbot on something and you're like, we're 24/7. You can speak to our team 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. You can speak to a live human. But 24/7 for us isn't just a time zone problem. It's also a coordination problem. So we focused on smarter routing, clearer workflows, and real-time reporting so that our teams can operate with consistency across geographies. For our revenue operations function that you mentioned, we approached it from a very service-first mindset. Our outbound team, for example, connects with customers who have paused somewhere along their journey. For example, maybe they didn't finish onboarding, maybe something wasn't clear, and they help bridge that gap. It's very consultative, no hard selling, just context and clarity that is being provided by that team. And then we also leaned into a proactive service. So we stood up a dedicated product operations pod to act as a feedback loop between the CX side of the house and the product side of the house, so that when we saw patterns in complaints or contact drivers, we're not just solving them at the surface level, on an interaction by interaction basis, we're actually fixing root causes. And then if you add to that a deeper categorization across, channels, segmentation by customer type, AI-enabled triage, we've built a system where customers can ultimately get what they need faster. Our agents are more empowered, and the MoneyLion organization as a whole has a much clearer understanding of what's driving experience. So ultimately, I would say it's not about just doing more with less. It's about doing better with intention, and turning support into something that not only protects the brand, but actually grows it.
To make sure that you have consistent operations across the whole different regions and make sure that you have the right quality across different regions, it sounds like having very proper metrics and evaluation mechanism really matters to you. So what kind of metrics or framework do you employ to make sure that you hit the right qualities?
Yeah, so we look at performance across 3 levels ultimately. So one is operationally. That's things like your SLAs, your average handle time, your first contact resolution, your AI containment rate, etc. Other than operationally, we look at things experientially. So that's things like your CSAT, your NPS, your QA, your sentiment metrics generally. And then the third is strategically. So that's things like contact rate per monthly active user, issue recurrence, churn, LTV lift, etc. And then we also use dashboards that allow us to slice that data by customer segment, channel, journey stage, kind of anything that we're looking for at the time. And the goal behind that is to move beyond just surface metrics and understand what's actually driving customer outcomes. So for example, if an initiative doesn't tie back to reducing friction or increasing clarity or improving value, then to be frank, it probably doesn't belong on the roadmap.
Makes sense. Makes sense. Um, so I'm really amazed by the success of it. Can you tell me a little bit about, were there any challenges, when you started this transformation, and how did you tackle with it?
Yeah, so anything worth doing is going to have some challenges associated with it, for sure. I would say that one of the biggest challenges that we had was probably team buy-in when we started introducing automation. There was a very real fear from my team in particular that AI would replace people or that self-service meant that quality would drop. So, to move through that, I had to lead with empathy and transparency. So we involved the team in the testing process. We explained the why, and we showed how these tools would ultimately support, not necessarily replace them, but how it would replace the low-level, tedious tasks that they were doing, which nobody wants to do anyway, freeing them up for a more meaningful impact. So once people saw that impact, things like reduced handle times, better support for complex cases, frankly, less burnout, in my team as well, they became advocates of that transformation and of that change. But that trust did have to be earned, and the key was around communication, inclusion, and celebrating early wins.
Yeah, it makes total sense that you have to earn the trust from the inside. But given the nature of customer operations, it is really also important to earn the trust from the external customers. So with the trust that you built internally, how do you incorporate the customer's feedback and bring external trust into your products and make this service improve day by day? And how do you make the entire process of it?
I love this question. Customer feedback is one of our most important inputs. And we actually treat it like a product signal. So every piece of feedback that comes through to us gets categorized, tagged, and fed into those dashboards that I mentioned earlier. We track trends by product, issue type, customer type, a number of different cuts of that data. And then we share those insights with product, engineering, and compliance and other teams on a weekly basis. We also use it to inform our broader roadmap as well. So, for example, if we're seeing spikes in a particular pain point, our product operations pod will flag that to the responsible team. They'll attach any supporting data and they'll follow up on a resolution. It's not just like noted, it's something that's operationalized within the company. Ultimately, the crux of it is that feedback doesn't live in a vacuum. It's really part of how we define success. We measure gaps and then how we prioritize what gets fixed first.
Awesome. So one of the question, I mean, referring back to the previous point, like you definitely had to, earn the trust of the all the teams to, drive this transformation. I understand, like you must have the need to, collaborate with like cross functionally to improve the experience, right? Can you tell us a little bit about how did you, make that effective collaboration?
Yeah, so our org is really set up to make cross-functional collaboration more of a default, not just a nice to have. And I've definitely worked for companies before where cross-functional collaboration is more of a nice to have. So it is nice to have it inbuilt into the DNA of what we do. An example of this is, so our product operations pod, who sits inside my team, acts like a bridge between CX and product. We meet weekly with product and engineering to review things like our top contact drivers, our friction points, and any missed opportunities as well. We use annotated feedback, linked contacts, and quantifiable data to make the case for new fixes. And then we also partner with other teams like marketing, compliance, fraud, to ensure that our customers are getting consistent messaging across all touch points. In my opinion, the best customer experience comes from shared ownership. So we've essentially built the systems and, frankly, the relationships to make that possible.
What I really love about your story is that your entire story is grounded by the whole essence of the customer operations, but also brings the innovation flavors into it. And if I can make this question a little more philosophical, to me, it feels like innovation and highly regulated environment that MoneyLion lives in do not necessarily sound super compatible. So how do you foster the culture of innovation in this type of highly regulated industry?
Yeah, the answer is carefully. I would say carefully and consistently, right? Innovation in a regulated space does require more than just good ideas. It requires trust and transparency and education. I've spent a lot of time building alignment with our internal risk, compliance, and legal teams, making sure that they're looped in early. Not just at the point of approval, but literally at the point of ideation on anything that we're working on. Externally too, we're in regular dialogue with our regulators, especially on the complaint side, so that they understand the changes that we're making and the rationale behind them. But innovation is also a cultural challenge, and especially in industry where change requires very careful navigation like the one that we're in, and where new ideas can take time to gain traction as well. When I started pushing for automation and AI, some team members were really skeptical, and others needed time to build some confidence behind it as well. And that meant that my first job as a leader wasn't implementation at all, it was mindset. So to achieve that, we invested in training, we created safe spaces for testing, we, celebrated small wins loudly. And, I stayed very close to the rollout, answering questions, adjusting expectations, making sure people knew this wasn't about, replacing them or circumventing any kind of compliance framework. It's about equipping people and making things easier for our teams and our customers as well. And then over time, we shifted that culture. The same people who were hesitant were the ones that actually became champions. And now innovation is part of our team's identity. Of course, what I just said sounds very easy, but that didn't happen overnight. But it did happen because we made space for it. And because I didn't wait to be invited to lead that change, I showed up with the plan, the patience, and the persistence as well to see it through.
That's really amazing. And to be honest, like overall, this your story has been such an inspiration. Before we end, I do have one question for you. Any advice you would like to give to young women who are pursuing technology or any of the leadership roles? They would love to learn from your experience and like take any advice you give them.
Yeah, for sure. My take might be a little spicier than usual on this in particular. Look, to be very frank, I think most advice for women in tech sounds a bit like a TED talk crossed with like a bumper sticker. Things like fail fast and take up space and lean in, and like that's fine, but here's a bit more of an honest take, I think. A lot of leadership actually looks like building scaffolding while you're already halfway up the structure. It is messy. It's improvisational, and yeah, like, people will question your right to be there while you're doing it. There were plenty of times in my career where I was underestimated, or where I didn't have the resources or the title or the budget. But as I said at the start of this conversation, I did have that clarity, and that's what moved things forward. I also mentioned earlier that, I've taken on departments in crisis, built systems from scratch, carried out work that didn't belong to me because no one else was stepping up. But, I'd also like to emphasize kind of what sits behind that. Was it exhausting? Yeah, like absolutely. But it was also how I learned to lead. The biggest unlock for me wasn't waiting to be asked. It was realizing that I actually didn't need permission to solve problems, and that often the most impactful work actually lives in the blind spots. So if you're trying to find your place, start there. Find the thing that no one else is owning, and make it better. Document it, learn from it, and then bring others with you when you can. You don't need to be the loudest voice in the room. Just be the one who sees clearly and moves with purpose. You'd be surprised how far that alone will take you. Ultimately, originality is an asset. It's not a liability. And that difference in perspective is actually the thing that makes you a leader and not just a participant. And when it gets uncomfortable, which it will, I don't want to sugarcoat that, just remember that discomfort isn't failure, it's feedback. And usually it means that you're doing something new or necessary or bold, which in leadership is like exactly the point, right? So I know I said a lot of words here, but in short, you don't need permission. You just need context, courage, and the willingness to learn on the fly. That's the big piece. Everything else, you will figure it out.
Those are such such wise words. Thank you so much. But before we end it, thank you so much, Jess, for being with us and share your amazing journey and how you have transformed the customer experience at MoneyLion. It's such an inspiration. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
All right, that was amazing. Jiwon, what do you think?
Yeah, although I did the interview, it is refreshing to just go through the interview once again together as a team. So there were a couple of things particularly stood out to me after hearing all this once again. The first thing is I really love how her approach to bringing AI into the organization. Yes, we are living in a world where we have all the fears that AI is going to take over our jobs and all these things. But, as a leader, you can be thoughtful bringing those AIs into your workplace and how make everybody feel they are part of it instead of being replaced by it. I think it is kind of very prime example of what we can do as team and as a human being overall to leverage the power of AI and be kind to each other. So that was one thing. And the other thing is, I also mentioned after the interview, after we did it, I loved when she said the originality is power, not liability. Because I personally have thought, like, I have a big personality in workplace. I love talking to people. I love sometimes making tests, but sometimes that felt like, oh, maybe it is not welcomed here, and I probably need to behave in certain ways. And also, I might not want to show this much of passion of doing my work sometimes. But this type of originality is not really stopping you from anything, but it really can be power of yours. And hearing it from someone else who is leading innovation in a very progressive way really really helps me and reassuring what I'm doing is right thing.
Awesome. Yep, I totally agree with you. So yeah, there is a good news. We are lucky today to have Jess, come back and join us for the show. So let me add Jess to a little chat here. Hey Jess, thank you so much for joining us.
Hi, thanks for having me back.
So first of all, I know we had our chat like maybe a few weeks ago, but after that I heard one amazing news, and that is like, first of all, congratulations on being named CX Leader of the Year.
Oh,
um,
Congratulations.
we should definitely celebrate that. Can you tell us, how was your experience, or tell us a little bit about that?
yeah, well, thank you, first of all, for acknowledging that. That's very, very sweet. Um, how was it? I would say that it was kind of surreal, actually, in the best way. Um, I think anyone who works in CX knows that the job isn't exactly like glamorous, I will say. There's a lot of behind the scenes slogging through stuff. There's a lot of triage, long Slack threads. There's fixing the same thing from 5 different angles, and then doing all of that again. Frankly, it's not a very sexy or glamorous function typically. So, I guess to have that kind of recognition was really quite meaningful, at least to me. It felt like a moment where we get to pause and say, like, okay, the work that we're doing, like, it actually does matter. People are seeing it, they are recognizing it. And not just the metrics, to be clear, but the mindset as well. The systems that we're building at MoneyLion aren't just operational, they are like emotional, I would say. They touch real people in real financial moments, and getting that right takes a weird little combination of empathy and logic, and I'll say like a refusal to let a broken process win. So all that to say, like, yes, I think for me it was a huge honor, and I also want to call out that my team, really won that right there alongside me as well. This is really more of a reflection of the work that they put in every day, more than just me. So it was an honor, in short.
For sure. And also, there was one question that we didn't get to ask you the other day. So again, we are living in the world of AI, and it is such an innovative space where we have to rethink how we work overall. So, what excites you the most as leader for the future possibilities of bringing AI into MoneyLion and CX operation in general?
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, besides the fact that it can, finally help us escape the tyranny of fragmented spreadsheets, there's a bunch of things. I'd say what genuinely excites me about AI is how it's actually giving us superpowers. Not to sound kind of cliche about that, but I think it really does, without asking us to become like less human, I'll say. So generative AI, especially, is letting us scale intelligence in ways that frankly would have taken 10 extra headcount and 3 months just a few years ago. And so we're using it to help agents show up sharper, faster, more informed. To kind of like put it into perspective, I think it's really the difference when you're speaking to someone between, let me go and find that for you, and like, I've got exactly what you need. And honestly speaking, I think whether you're a customer or an agent, I think everybody would prefer to have that second interaction when you're speaking with somebody in CX. But here's the thing. So honestly, I'm not excited about AI for AI's sake. I'm actually really excited about when it frees up people to do what people do best. So things like thinking creatively, or connecting with that nuance that humans do have, or to make judgment calls that in some situations, you might not ever trust a bot to make. So like, yes, we are automating. And I know I talked a lot in our conversation about like, AI and the things that we are automating. But I think the really important part is that we're also elevating. And I think that that's the real magic here, is being able to free humans up from menial tasks that don't really add value, so that they have the space to do the things where they add the most value.
Awesome, awesome. Thank you so much for sharing that.
course.
To our audience, if you are interested in joining MoneyLion, I'm gonna post the link here in the comments. So feel free to take that and take a look. And also, you can reach out to Jess, myself, or Jiwon directly on the LinkedIn as well. You can reach out on the. You can find the LinkedIn links as well on our on the comment side. And before we end, I know we are almost at time, but thank you, Jess, once again for joining us and sharing your amazing experience with us.
Yeah, my pleasure. And if anyone is watching this and looking to join our team, definitely do reach out. We're a fun group of people. We're working on cool stuff. And I do hope to hear from you.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And to our audience, thank you so much for joining this episode. Make sure you like and subscribe our channel, and we'll see you for the next episode. Thank you so much.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank
See
you.
you.